not only are we sick, but we are reaching the point where no one remembers a time when we weren't sick, right? We're about to lose the last generation. I didn't mean to point at you. You may still be too young to have had measles, to have been through the Brady Bunch time, right? Where it was a joke, at a laugh track to it. Now we live in it's the end of the world, right? But that same generation is the last generation that never had an asthma inhaler, had no peanut allergies, did not understand what autoimmune disease was until much later in their lives. Every kid now that's a part of the voting body looks at what Robert Kennedy Jr. is saying and saying, there were no autistic people my age. Like, that doesn't make sense to them. They're like, well, of course there were. And the pharmaceutical industry has played on that. The biggest argument they've had is autism's always been here. We're just diagnosing it better. I mean, that is literally the final spot that they've landed on, which is the most insane statement, as Robert Kennedy Jr. is saying, then find me anyone my age with autism. But there, if at 1 in 34, certainly at 1 in 18 to 20 boys, which is where we're at now, there should be old folks' homes filled with men standing in corners with repetitive motion disorders and everything. It doesn't exist. Yet the pharmaceutical industry is preying on a generation that sees autism all around them, sees it at 1 in 20, preys on a 60% autoimmune and neurological disease crisis. 1 in 4 kids is leaving elementary school on a drug they're going to be on their rest of their lives, and that's normal. Girls in college, I'm hearing, somewhere around 50% are on antidepressants. Almost every boy is taking Ritalin in order to focus. That is normal, and they are the ones going to be deciding, who they're going to vote for to protect their health. What do they know about health? I mean, we are so far away from where we were healthy. So to your point, not only are we sick, it's also normalized because it's all that we see, and the rest is starting to sound like a dream or a mythology.
And where we end up is, let's say 50 years from now, when entire urban populations, less so in the rural areas, have been on some kind of mind-altering drug. And I don't mean that, I don't mean like a recreational drug. I mean like either for focus or for depression from the time they were children.
Yeah.
And then when the Make America Healthy Again movement 2.0 emerges, these people are going to be like, they're trying to kill us by taking away our life-saving medication.
Right. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. What I always say is we have a generation now that hasn't had a sober day in their lives. They haven't been sober. They have been on drugs since now we're giving infants antidepressants. I mean, it is so systemic and such a problem. You're right. And the pharmaceutical industry pushes the ads. They have Democrats saying, you're taking away, you're making psychology a bad thing, and you're against these people, and the fact that we want to look at school shootings. Can we at least put SSRIs on the table as a part of the conversation? It's not allowed. Now you're attacking people that have psychological issues, and so the whole thing is.
Well, it's all wrapped up in wokeism. It's all wrapped up in wokeism. The thing that I find stunning about all this is I live in rural Virginia, and a lot of these things that we're talking about is not an issue in my community. I live around farmers and people that live close to the land, or we could make the case they are physicals. And a lot of what we're talking about are problems of the urban society and of people that are living in the virtual world. This kind of division that we're touching on here is pretty alien for a lot of, the pejorative is the flyover states. For folks that are out there doing stuff on a daily basis, whether it's HVAC or farming or whatever, they're not living in this world that we're describing in a general sense.
So I want to interrupt you.
Yeah, go.
Someone brought up an interesting point on testosterone. And you mentioned the flyover states, and I got to thinking, a lot of people in these rural areas, physical labor is just a part of your daily life.
You do.
Chopping wood is fun, actually, but that's going to stimulate muscle development and testosterone production, and testosterone production is going to have an effect on your mind. And so I wonder how much.
And don't forget the role of sunlight. We were talking about light earlier on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I look at these cities, and what do we find? People are largely indoors, no sunlight. Limited physical activity relative to how humans used to live a long time ago through the Industrial Revolution and through office jobs and things like this. Obviously, there are people who still do construction and do physical labor, but this means you are going to have. I mean, I wonder if this has been studied. Have they tracked the average testosterone levels by region of the United States?
I don't know the answer to that. I know that they have been tracking testosterone levels, and it's been plummeting. So is sperm count, and a lot of the other.
I would recommend everyone see the documentary Wall-E.
Well, it's a good point, Tim, because I would say that cities have become toxic on every level because there's just a higher density of all these systemic inputs that are so alien to our body.
But a lot of what we're talking about here has to do, if we boil it down, with media and information and the biasing of information. That's when we're talking about, we're kind of talking about culture and information and media. And the folks that are living in the bi-coastal urban areas are living in a reality in which their entire awareness is being manipulated on a daily basis. Of course, anybody that's interacting with social media, whereas if is the same case or even more so. But if you're out there actually doing things on a daily basis and interacting with others, other human beings, then you're living in a very separate reality. And I think this is one of the things that's really kind of creating a huge rift in the American body politic. When you look at the distribution of blue and red counties that voted for Trump or didn't vote for Trump, it's right there in your face.
So I did a quick search. There doesn't seem to be any strong distinction between anywhere in the country and the testosterone levels, save for one state. It has very, very high testosterone levels. Which state would you think that is?
I'm guessing Texas.
Texas.
Oh, no. But there's two states, and Texas would have been one of them. The other one, any other ideas?
No.
Florida.
Florida, really?
Yeah.
Sunshine.
And they're out physically a lot more, people in Florida.
And I'm just thinking about the politics of the place. Miami turning red. I'm like, oh yeah. The average testosterone level in Florida is between 500 and 599 NGDL. What does that stand for?
Nanograms per deciliter.
There you go. Arkansas has appears to be one of the that's incorrect. Why would they put it that way? So most states, it's actually between 400 and 500, and it fluctuates. There's no real distinction between them, except for Florida, which has very high. So it's between 400 and 500. They're 500 and 600.
Another one of the drivers in the
Florida.
Another one of the drivers in the testosterone crisis, really, I think we can say, is age. And as people age, their testosterone levels tend to plummet.
Yeah, but I would have thought that would have affected Florida. That's what
I'm
surprised about the Florida
but the counter narrative that's happening now is the rise of hormonal supplementation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that's because if there's this whole discussion going on: can you reverse aging? What I'm seeing, and I think what in general is happening right now is the rise of bioidentical hormone supplementation, because as those levels drop, you have to artificially support them if you want to maintain kind of the quality of life that you had before, sex drive and everything else. And when you do that, you see people that seem to be growing younger. It's a paradox. And if they drop their weight and they get on bioidentical hormone supplementation, which, by the way, the government doesn't subsidize. They will pay for you to have synthetic hormones, but they won't pay for you to have bioidentical hormones. You have to pay for it out of your own pocket. So that's one of the reasons why you see the rich people showing these signs that they're not aging. You see these 80-year-olds or Larry Ellison, right? The other day, he's 80 years old and he looks like he's a spring chicken. It looks like he's in his 50s.
So this is is this like testosterone replacement therapy?
Testosterone and also female hormones
for women.
For women, absolutely, and it improves bone density. You want to talk about health so the dynamic is the population is aging. And as the population's aging, it's known that aging is associated with decline in a variety of endocrine functions, and that includes our sex hormones. And so if you get in there and artificially supplement those, then you see people that they have a new lease on life. It's like they're young again.
I got a question for you. Maybe you can't answer. They do stem cell therapy now.
Yes, absolutely. This is a key topic with MAHA and some of the strategies. The basically offshoring stem cell therapy for regenerative medicine right now is where you have to go, and only the rich people can access it.
So the Cellular Performance Institute, I visited them in Tijuana. They're outside the country.
Right.
They, I believe they're one of the sponsors for UFC. Many of these UFC fighters will have cartilage damage. They will inject stem cells to the damaged site. The stem cells will then effectively copy the cartilage material and regrow it. And so I met tons of fighters who said they had, rotator cuff injuries.
And this is totally contrary to the established narrative in medicine. You're not supposed to be able to do this. And what these people are is biohackers. Okay, we put out an essay the other day where we talked about methylene blue. I mean, think about it. We now have, as the Secretary of Health and Human Services, a bodybuilder biohacker.
Yeah.
Okay, what's happening in these sectors, like you're talking about the WFC and the bodybuilders and weightlifters, they are biohacking themselves. They're experimenting with nutraceuticals, vitamins, all these other supplements in a really aggressive way. And what they're doing is they're experimenting on themselves, and they are breaking the ice for all of us. We owe them a huge debt.
Well, you made an important word, though, because experimenting, I think a lot of people, I don't jump on, this is where an FDA is necessary. Stem cells, super cool, but I don't just want to go to anybody that's injecting into eyeballs. Oh, it does all this stuff. Yeah, but we don't know what the long-term effects are going to be for these UFC fighters. It may be great, but there aren't long-term trials there, things like that. So I'm all for, you should know you're experimenting. You should know the product should say this. We have no long-term idea of does it keep growing? Does it turn into tumors? We have no idea where this is all going. It's so brand new. So yes, experiment. Yes, we should do it.
Use it at your own risk.
Yes,
use it at your own risk.
But I think we get into a dangerous place where it's just it should just be available to everybody. Look how great it is. Mercury was great as a product. I mean, it got rid of cold so quickly and cold sores.
But Dell, okay, go ahead.
The question I wanted to ask when I brought it up was, when they do stem cell IV infusion, they say that damaged, inflamed cells release chemical signals. They attract stem cells. The stem cells then bond to the area and replicate the nearby cells, effectively repairing the damage. What would happen if someone got stem cell treatment every 3 months? Could they live forever, or what would happen if they're constantly injecting themselves with stem cells to repair damaged cells?
The answer is we don't know.
Right.
But the regenerative medicine is opening up whole new frontiers in terms of human longevity and the effects of age. That is undeniable. And unfortunately, because of a variety of policies, it is only really available to the wealthy or those that are willing to commit a large fraction of their income to maintaining their own personal health. But this, personally, you made the case that the FDA should be drawn back, or certainly you recited the case that the FDA should be drawn back to the position where it ensures purity and identity. Those are the technical terms.
Safety and purity, yeah.
Safety, purity, and identity, okay? And doesn't take a position on efficacy. It basically allows the consumer to make their own judgment. This is a fundamentally a libertarian position, and it puts you in control, Tim, of your own health. You are the one, and it requires a person who is willing to take personal responsibility. And in our culture right now, this is one of the fundamental problems. We don't take personal responsibility for our own decisions in every which way, including our health decisions. And so that's when we end up with this position. Well, the state has the responsibility to ensure that everything is going to be hunky-dory for me if I do this, that, or the other thing. And because I don't want to be personally responsible for it. That this gets into the logic of the pediatric schedule, everything.
I think it was the story of the time machine. He goes into the future, and in the future, humanity is split into two different races. There's primitive, stupid creatures, and then super intelligent humans. Or maybe I'm getting the story wrong. But thinking about all this stuff and talking about the stem cell therapy and other popular trends in health, it really does feel like we are moving in a direction where humanity will exist as two different cultural sets.
Well, this is the transhuman ism argument,
right?
Okay, is that there is a school of thought, a lot of it concentrated in the Silicon Valley bros, the tech bros, that the human species is obsolete. We've mismanaged the environment, and we have to turn over management of the globe and the future to intelligent machines. I mean, how many science fiction movies do we have to see about this, right? Terminator being the notable one, and The Matrix being another. But the theory is that humans are obsolete, that humans that refuse to accept things like Neuralink, that will allow them to directly connect as opposed to the indirect connections that we have with these, with this, monster database, artificial intelligence entity that's out there that is moving towards general autonomous artificial intelligence. That's the Larry Ellison thing that he pitched to the president on second day of his presidency. So if you don't buy into that, then you'll be left behind and you'll functionally become akin to a pet. And this is where a lot of the logic of the useless eaters, you've heard that, right? Klaus Schwab and all that, that's coming from that same space, that there is this theory that we are going to move to a position where eventually it's only going to be the machines that are going to be the evolved species, and human beings are basically going to be akin to dogs.
But and you recognize that, but there's nothing you can do about it. When these people hook themselves into the machine, their mental capacity will, assuming we get read-write technologies in Neuralink, which I assume is absolutely possible. I don't see why not. And they can supplement their brain power with massive AI, maybe becoming some kind of creepy hive mind. Who knows? Let's just say a single individual, Silicon Tech Valley bro, pumps himself full of stem cells, chemicals, or otherwise, plugs his brain into a computer. We can sit here and speculate and say, we recognize what's going on. They will be so far beyond that, they'll say, the world's smartest man is no bigger threat to me than its smartest termite, effectively. Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, so subscribe and come hang out.